There comes a time in every life when the mind feels heavy. Thoughts become loud, messy, and confused. In those moments, the quality of our thinking decides the quality of our life. Clear thinking is not a gift, it is a discipline. It is something we train, something we return to every day. And when we learn to master our mind, our decisions become stronger, calmer, and wiser. Slow your mind before making any decision. This simple act has the power to change the entire direction of your life. Most of the mistakes people regret later are born from speed, from acting too quickly, from letting urgency push the mind into confusion. A mind that moves too fast cannot see clearly. It mixes fear with facts, emotion with truth, and pressure with priority. When you slow down, even for a moment, something important happens inside you. The noise begins to settle. Thoughts that were chaotic start to fall into order. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. You create a moment of space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space, wisdom finds room to speak. When you slow down, you separate yourself from the emotional storm that tries to control your decisions. Anger wants you to react now. Fear wants you to run now. Excitement wants you to jump now. Every emotion says, now. But wisdom says, wait. Wise decisions never come from the heat of the moment. They come after the fire cools and the mind returns to balance. Slowing down is not about being passive or weak. It is about choosing clarity over chaos. It is choosing to respond, not react. It is reminding yourself that every decision becomes a part of your life story. So it deserves patience. Life constantly pushes you to act fast. Messages demand instant replies. Problems demand instant solutions. People demand instant answers. The world celebrates speed, but speed is often the enemy of clarity. A rushed mind is like muddy water. You cannot see through it. But when you give it time, the dirt settles and the water becomes clear again. Your mind works the same way. Slow it down, and suddenly the right path becomes visible. You notice details you ignored before. You hear your own thoughts instead of the noise of the world. You understand what truly matters and what doesn't. Slowing down also protects you from decisions that come from ego. Sometimes you want to prove a point, win an argument, or defend your pride. These decisions feel powerful in the moment, but they bring regret later. When you pause, you see through the illusions created by ego. You realize that winning is not the goal. Wisdom is. You begin to understand that the strong person is not the one who acts the fastest, but the one who controls their mind before they act. A slow mind is not a lazy mind, it is a disciplined mind. It takes strength to stop yourself when everything inside you wants to move. It takes courage to breathe when pressure tells you to rush. Slowing down is a skill you build with practice. You train your mind to take a step back before speaking, before reacting, before making choices that shape your future. With time, this becomes your natural way of thinking. You no longer live in a hurry, you move with intention. You no longer carry the burden of regret, you choose with awareness. When you slow down, you give yourself the chance to see the situation without filters. You start noticing what is real, what is imagined, what is helpful, and what is simply noise. You stop letting other people's urgency become your urgency. You begin to feel the difference between something that needs immediate action and something that only feels urgent, because your emotions are loud. Slowing down teaches you to separate the story your mind creates from the truth of the moment. It teaches you that every decision, even small ones, deserves a clear mind. The more you slow down before deciding, the more control you gain over your life. You stop being pushed by emotions, by others, by pressure, by habits. You start making choices that match your values, your purpose, and your inner calm. Slowing down is the doorway to better thinking, better decisions, and a better life. Focus only on what you can control. This principle is simple, yet it has the power to transform the way you think, act, and make decisions. Most of the stress you feel comes from giving attention to things that are not in your hands. When you try to control the uncontrollable, your mind becomes restless. Your thoughts scatter in many directions, and clarity disappears. But when you return your focus to what truly belongs to you, your actions, your responses, your choices, the mind becomes lighter, calmer, and more capable of seeing the right path forward. Every day, countless things happen around you that you cannot change. People behave in ways you don't like. Situations unfold differently from what you expected. Plans fail. Circumstances shift. The world does not bend to your desires. When you attach your peace to external events, you give away your power. You allow your mind to be pulled by every change, every comment, every outcome. But when you focus only on your own thoughts and actions, you regain control. You move from being a victim of circumstances to being the master of your reactions. Clarity grows when you separate what is yours from what is not. Your effort is yours, the result is not. Your honesty is yours, how others see you is not. Your choices are yours, other people's opinions are not. Your discipline is yours, the behavior of the world is not. This separation protects your mind from confusion. It stops you from wasting energy on things that will never change no matter how much you think about them. It gives you the freedom to direct your strength where it actually matters. When you focus only on what you can control, decisions become easier. You no longer ask, what if everything goes wrong? Instead you ask, what is the best action I can take right now? That shift alone removes unnecessary fear. Fear grows in the unknown, in the future, in possibilities you cannot influence. But peace grows in the present moment, where your actions live. When you stay with the things you can actually do, your mind stops creating stories of failure and disaster. It becomes grounded in reality, not imagination. This principle also teaches you humility. You understand that no matter how much you try, you cannot force life to follow your plan. You cannot control someone's feelings, their reactions, or their choices. You cannot control accidents, delays, or the small twists of fate. But you can control how you adapt. You can control the attitude you bring to challenges. You can control the discipline you show even when things do not go your way. This inner stability is what creates clear thinking. A person who accepts reality sees it more clearly than someone who fights against it. Focusing on what you can control also protects your emotional energy. Worry becomes irrelevant because worry does not change outcomes. It only drains you. Anger loses its force because you stop expecting others to behave exactly as you want. Frustration fades because you stop resisting things that were never in your hands. When the mind is freed from these emotional burdens, it becomes sharper, more balanced, and more capable of making strong decisions. You will notice that when your attention stays on your own actions, you become more consistent. You don't depend on motivation that comes and goes. You build habits based on discipline. You create progress that does not collapse when the world becomes difficult. You become stronger internally, not because life becomes easier, but because your mind is no longer pulled in every direction. This stability gives you the clarity needed to make wise choices. You start choosing what serves your growth, not what satisfies your emotions in the moment. You start acting with purpose, not impulse. You begin to shape your life with intention because you are rooted in the only thing you truly own. Your own mind and your own actions. Don't let emotions lead your choices. Emotions are powerful forces, and they rise quickly, often without warning. They color your thoughts, push your actions, and shape your decisions in ways you may not notice in the moment. When emotions take the lead, clarity disappears. You see through a filter of anger, fear, excitement, or sadness, and that filter changes the truth of the situation. A mind controlled by emotion becomes reactive, impulsive, and easily missiled. But a mind that observes emotion without obeying it grows wiser, calmer, and more in control of its path. Emotions are not the enemy. They are natural signals created by your mind and body. They reveal what you care about, what scares you, what matters to you. But they are poor guides for decision-making. An angry mind wants to fight, even when the fight is unnecessary. A fearful mind wants to escape, even when the danger is imagined. An excited mind wants to jump forward without thinking about the consequences. If you let these feelings decide for you, they will lead you into choices that bring regret. Clear thinking requires distance. When an emotion rises, instead of reacting immediately, take a step back and observe it. Notice the feeling, acknowledge it, but don't follow it blindly. Ask yourself what the emotion is trying to tell you. Anger may point to a boundary that needs protection. Fear may reveal something new or uncertain. Excitement may show you an opportunity. But the emotion itself is not the decision, it is only information. You must interpret that information with a calm mind, not with a mind that is drowning in feeling. When you pause before acting, you break the chain between emotion and reaction. You create space for reason. You give yourself the chance to choose, instead of being controlled. This is where strength is found, not in suppressing emotions, but in managing them. In understanding that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent rulers. They come, they peak, they fade. But your decisions remain. What you choose today may shape your life for years. That is why emotions must not be the driver. Many people look back on their lives and realize that their biggest regrets were emotional decisions. Words spoken in anger, risks taken in excitement, silence chosen out of fear. These moments happen when the mind is overwhelmed, when the heart speaks louder than wisdom, when impulse becomes stronger than intention. But when you learn to sit with your emotions without acting on them, you become more stable. You begin to see that most emotional reactions last only a short time. If you can wait, even a few minutes, the intensity decreases and clarity returns. Another important part of emotional control is understanding that others may try to provoke you. People may speak harshly, act unfairly, or challenge you. If your emotions guide your response, you allow them to control you. You give them power over your peace. But when you respond from a grounded mind, you maintain your dignity and strength. You show that your inner state is not decided by someone else's behavior. This protects your clarity and helps you make thoughtful decisions rather than emotional ones. Emotional discipline also builds confidence. When you know that you can stay calm even in difficult moments, you trust yourself more. You no longer fear stressful situations because you know you will not lose control. You know you will think clearly, act wisely, and hold your ground. This self-control becomes a powerful tool in every area of life: relationships, work, goals, challenges, and daily choices. It allows you to move through the world with a quiet strength that cannot be shaken easily. Training yourself not to let emotions lead takes time. It requires patience and awareness. Each time you feel overwhelmed, take that as an opportunity to practice. You do not have to suppress the feeling. You simply have to pause, breathe, and allow the emotion to settle before deciding what to do. Over time, the mind learns to stay steady even when the heart is loud. You learn to think clearly even when the moment is heavy. You learn to make decisions from wisdom, not from emotional storms. Question your first thought before acting. The mind is quick to create a reaction the moment something happens. That first thought often rises from habit, emotion, fear, ego, or old patterns you may not even notice. It appears fast, sometimes in less than a second, and it pushes you toward immediate action. But the first thought is not always the clearest or the wisest. It is simply the loudest. When you pause and question it, you give yourself the chance to see the truth behind your reaction and make a choice that aligns with clarity, rather than impulse. The first thought is usually the unfiltered one. It comes from your past experiences, your biases, your expectations, and your automatic reactions. Sometimes it is helpful, but often it is incomplete or exaggerated. It may tell you to be afraid when there is no real danger. It may tell you to be offended when no harm was intended. It may tell you to rush when patience would serve you better. If you trust this first thought without questioning it, you allow your old patterns to control your present decisions. You let the noise inside your mind guide you, instead of your deeper understanding. Clear thinking grows when you create a moment of reflection between the thought and the action. Asking simple questions like, "Is this true?" or "Is this helpful?" can protect you from unnecessary conflict, misunderstanding, and regret. When you challenge your initial reaction, the mind begins to slow down. It starts to see the situation with more honesty. You begin to separate reality from imagination, facts from assumptions. This small pause can completely change the direction of your decision. Questioning your first thought also weakens the power of ego. The ego often reacts first. It wants to protect itself, defend itself, prove itself right, and avoid discomfort. It may push you to argue, criticize, judge, or react harshly. But when you question that urge, you uncover a deeper layer of thought that is calmer and wiser. You begin to act from understanding instead of pride. You become open to different perspectives, instead of locking yourself inside assumptions. This creates clarity not just in your mind, But in your relationships and your choices, many problems in life come from acting too quickly based on the first thought. Misunderstandings grow, conflicts deepen, and small issues become large ones. But when you train yourself to pause and question, you avoid these traps. You learn to respond with purpose. You make decisions based on what is right, not what is reactive. This habit becomes a shield that protects your peace and strengthens your judgment. Another benefit of questioning your first thought is that it helps you understand yourself more deeply. You start to notice patterns in your reactions. You see what triggers you, what scares you, what angers you, what makes you rush. This awareness becomes a tool for growth. When you know your automatic patterns, you can break them. When you know your weaknesses, you can strengthen them. When you know what pushes you, you can learn how to stay steady. This practice also builds patience. The more you question your thoughts, the more you learn that most situations are not as urgent as they feel. You discover that you have more time than you think. You realize that waiting a few seconds, a few minutes, or sometimes a few hours can make a huge difference in what you choose. Decisions made with patience are almost always better than those made in haste. Questioning your first thought creates this patience naturally. It becomes part of how you think. With time, this habit transforms your mind. You begin to notice that your second thought is often wiser. Your third thought is calmer. Your later thoughts are clearer. By giving these thoughts space to rise, you make decisions not from impulse, but from intention. You become someone who thinks deeply before acting, someone who chooses purposefully rather than emotionally. This ability brings stability and strength to every part of your life. When you question your first thought, you take control of your mind. Instead of letting your mind control, you stay calm in moments of pressure. Life will test you in ways you cannot always predict. Challenges appear suddenly, expectations rise, and difficulties press against your mind and body. In those moments, it is easy to let tension take over. The mind races, the heart pounds, and decisions feel heavier than they truly are. But calmness is not weakness, it is strength. A calm mind sees clearly. It separates what matters from what is noise, what is true from what is imagined. It allows you to act intentionally instead of reacting blindly to the storm around you. Pressure is inevitable. Deadlines come, conflicts arise, and problems demand immediate attention. When the mind is rushed, clarity disappears. Thoughts overlap, emotions surge, and even simple choices become confusing. But when you train yourself to remain calm, you create a space between stimulus and response. You step out of the chaos and observe it. You measure the situation without being consumed by it. In this pause, the path forward becomes visible, and decisions emerge with a clarity that is impossible when panic takes the lead. Calmness is not a natural state for most people under stress. It requires practice and awareness. It requires understanding that pressure does not have to control your inner world. When you feel tension rising, you can take a breath, focus on your next step, and remind yourself that the moment will pass. By controlling your inner state, you prevent external circumstances from dictating your thoughts and actions. This control is a foundation for clear thinking, because the mind is never sharper than when it is composed and steady. Remaining calm also protects you from making decisions you regret. Pressure has a way of magnifying fear, anger, and desire. Under pressure, people often act impulsively. They speak words they later regret, take actions that harm their goals, or abandon reasoning in favor of immediate relief. Calmness slows this process. It allows you to weigh options carefully, consider consequences, and choose in alignment with your values rather than with momentary feelings. Decisions made in calmness are thoughtful, deliberate, and far more likely to produce positive results. Another benefit of calmness under pressure is that it influences others. A person who remains steady in chaos becomes a source of stability for those around them. People follow those who do not panic, because calmness signals clarity and competence. When you act with composure, others can think clearly as well, and the environment becomes less chaotic. Calmness spreads, creating an atmosphere where better decisions can be made collectively, not just individually. Developing calmness requires training the mind to notice pressure without reacting immediately. You must learn to observe the sensations of stress, the tightness in your chest, the rapid thoughts, the desire to act instantly, without allowing them to dictate your behavior. This is not suppression, it is awareness. It is understanding that your inner state belongs to you, and no external circumstance has the right to steal it. By maintaining control of your mind, you maintain control over your decisions, your actions, and your life. Calmness also strengthens patience and perspective. In moments of pressure, people often overestimate the urgency or danger of the situation. By staying calm, you see that many pressures are temporary, that problems can be addressed step by step, and that solutions often appear clearer when you do not rush. The calmer you remain, the more options you notice, and the better the decisions you can make. This is why calmness is not a passive state, it is an active skill that improves thinking, sharpens judgment, and increases resilience. A mind trained in calmness under pressure develops resilience. It learns to face challenges without being shaken, to consider outcomes without fear, and to respond rather than react. This resilience strengthens every decision because it removes the noise of panic, worry, and haste. Calmness creates clarity, and clarity allows wisdom to rise. By remaining composed in the midst of pressure, you ensure that your choices reflect thought, not chaos, and that your life moves in alignment with intention, rather than impulse. Keep your inner space clean and simple. The mind, like a room, can become cluttered with thoughts, worries, and distractions. When it is filled with unnecessary noise, clarity cannot exist. Decisions become difficult, and even small problems feel overwhelming. A cluttered mind overthinks, doubts, and reacts without focus. But when you maintain simplicity within yourself, when you remove what does not serve you, the mind becomes a powerful tool for clear thinking and wise action. Inner cleanliness is not about perfection. It is about creating space where reason and understanding can flourish. Mental clutter comes in many forms. Unnecessary worries, regrets about the past, anxieties about the future, and opinions of others all pile into the mind without conscious permission. Each of these takes up space, making it harder to focus on what truly matters. They distract from the present, pull your energy in multiple directions, and cloud judgment. When you carry mental clutter, your thoughts feel heavy, and decisions feel confusing. The mind loses its ability to see the situation as it is, and instead reacts to layers of imagined pressure. Cleaning this space requires awareness and practice, a daily commitment to simplicity. Simplicity begins with recognizing what is essential. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. Not every thought, worry, or emotion needs action. By distinguishing what is important from what is trivial, you free your mind to concentrate on meaningful choices. This clarity allows you to respond with precision rather than reacting to every stimulus. When the mind focuses only on what is necessary, decisions become stronger, faster, and more confident. You stop wasting energy on distractions and redirect it toward your purpose and values. Removing mental clutter also involves managing external influences. Constant exposure to unnecessary information, comparisons with others, or toxic environments feeds the mind with noise. Social media, endless messages, and other people's drama can overwhelm the inner space. To think clearly, it is essential to step back from these distractions. Create boundaries that protect your mind from unnecessary input. Limit what you allow into your thoughts, so that the space within remains calm and uncluttered. The cleaner your inner world, the sharper your judgment becomes. Another aspect of keeping your inner space clean is dealing with unresolved emotions. Anger, resentment, regret, and fear act like dust on the mind. They obscure perception, making it difficult to see situations objectively. Addressing these feelings through reflection, acceptance, or release clears the mental surface. When emotions no longer dominate your inner space, your thinking becomes calm, balanced, and directed. A clear mind is not one without emotion, but one where emotion does not control thought. Simplicity also encourages focus and discipline. A mind cluttered with unnecessary choices struggles to prioritize. It becomes scattered, trying to manage too many directions at once. By simplifying your mental environment, you reduce indecision and enhance concentration. You can approach problems step by step, without distraction, and make choices with confidence. Simplicity helps you act with intention rather than reaction, guiding you toward outcomes aligned with your values and goals. A clean inner space also fosters peace and resilience. When the mind is free from clutter, it is not easily shaken by external circumstances. Problems appear smaller because they are no longer magnified by mental noise. Challenges can be addressed calmly because your mental energy is available to focus on solutions, rather than being wasted on unnecessary thoughts. Inner cleanliness builds strength, allowing you to face difficulties without losing clarity or purpose. Maintaining a clean inner space requires habit. Daily reflection, meditation, journaling, or simply quiet moments can help remove clutter. Let go of what does not serve you, organize your priorities, and focus on the present moment. The simpler your inner environment, the more powerful your mind becomes. Decisions become easier, thinking becomes sharper, and life becomes more manageable. By keeping your mental space clean, you create the conditions for clarity, wisdom, and calm action to thrive. Choose reason over impulse. Every day, life presents opportunities and challenges that demand decisions. Often, the first urge is not the wisest one. Impulse comes naturally. It is fast, emotional, and driven by desire, fear, or habit. It promises immediate satisfaction or relief, but it rarely considers the long-term consequences. Reason, on the other hand, is deliberate. It weighs options, considers outcomes, and aligns choices with values and purpose. Choosing reason over impulse is not always easy, but it is the foundation of clear thinking and strong decision-making. Impulse is deceptive because it feels urgent. A sudden thought, a rush of emotion, or a tempting offer creates pressure to act immediately. The mind interprets this pressure as a signal to respond without reflection. Acting on impulse often leads to regret, because the initial reaction ignores the bigger picture. Reason slows this process. It allows you to pause, examine the situation, and consider the consequences of your actions. It creates space between desire and decision, which is where wisdom emerges. When you consistently favor reason, your mind becomes more disciplined and your choices more effective. Choosing reason over impulse also protects your values. Impulsive decisions are often guided by temporary desires, fleeting emotions, or the influence of others. They can lead you away from your principles, causing internal conflict and dissatisfaction. Reason, however, evaluates decisions against your long-term goals and core beliefs. It asks whether a choice reflects who you want to be or merely what you want in the moment. By choosing reason, you strengthen your integrity, maintain consistency, and ensure that your actions reflect your character rather than passing whims. Impulsive actions often magnify stress and complicate life. A quick decision made in anger can damage relationships, a choice made in fear can close doors unnecessarily, and a decision made in excitement can lead to wasted effort or failure. Reason acts as a filter, helping you distinguish between what is essential and what is superficial. It encourages careful thought, asking questions like, "What is the likely outcome?" or "Does this align with my values?" These questions guide the mind toward clarity and away from the confusion that impulsive actions create. Training yourself to choose reason over impulse requires awareness and practice. First, you must recognize when an impulse arises. Notice the feelings, desires, or thoughts pushing you to act immediately. Then pause, breathe, consider alternatives and potential consequences. Ask yourself whether acting now serves your long-term interests or simply your short-term comfort. This simple habit gradually rewires the mind, making deliberate choices the default rather than emotional reactions. Over time, your decision-making becomes stronger, and your mind clearer. Reason also fosters patience. Impulse often drives people to seek instant results, expecting quick satisfaction and immediate solutions. Patience allows you to wait for the right moment, to gather information, and to act with intention rather than haste. A patient mind can evaluate situations more fully, leading to decisions that are thoughtful, measured, and effective. By prioritizing reason, you resist the pressure of the immediate and embrace the strength of the deliberate. Another benefit of choosing reason is that it improves resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges can provoke strong emotional reactions. A mind that reacts impulsively is vulnerable to frustration, regret, and instability. A mind guided by reason observes the situation calmly, weighs options carefully, and acts with purpose. This steadiness makes it easier to navigate difficulties, adapt to change, and recover from setbacks. Reason provides a framework for handling life's complexities, without being swept away by emotion or desire. When reason leads, clarity follows. Decisions become aligned with reality, free from distortion by temporary impulses or fleeting emotions. You begin to act intentionally rather than reactively. You notice the consequences of choices more clearly, and you develop confidence in your ability to make wise decisions. Choosing reason over impulse is not a single act but a habit, a daily commitment to think first, act second, and let clarity guide every step of life. Seek clarity, not approval from others. Many people spend their lives chasing the opinions, praise, or validation of others, believing that acceptance will bring peace or happiness. Yet when decisions are made to please others, the mind becomes divided and clouded. Choices are no longer guided by reason or personal values, but by the fluctuating judgments of those around you. This reliance on external approval creates uncertainty, fear, and doubt because the world cannot always satisfy your need for validation. True clarity arises when you shift your focus inward, valuing your own understanding over the opinions of others. Approval from others is unpredictable. People have their own desires, biases, and fears, and they will never think exactly as you do. When you base your actions on what others might think, your mind becomes a battlefield of expectations, assumptions, and imagined judgments. You may take actions that feel unnatural or uncomfortable simply to gain temporary acceptance. Over time, this habit erodes confidence, diminishes self-trust, and clouds your ability to see situations clearly. Clarity cannot coexist with constant dependence on external approval, because it relies on freedom from distraction and influence. Seeking clarity instead of approval requires self-awareness. It begins with asking yourself, what do I know to be true? What aligns with my values? What action serves my purpose? These questions redirect attention from outside opinions to inner understanding. When the mind focuses on truth and reason, external pressures lose their hold. Decisions become easier because they are grounded in what matters most, not in what others might think. Clarity emerges when the mind is honest, steady, and aligned with personal principles, rather than divided by the fluctuating judgments of society or peers. When you prioritize clarity over approval, you also cultivate courage. Choosing your own path often challenges social norms or expectations, and it may provoke criticism. The desire to be liked can prevent necessary action or dilute important decisions. A person seeking clarity is willing to face disapproval, because the value of understanding oneself and acting wisely outweighs the fleeting satisfaction of acceptance. Courage grows as clarity strengthens, creating a mind that is resilient, focused, and free from the constant pull of outside influence. Dependence on approval often leads to overthinking and indecision. You weigh every choice against imagined reactions, trying to anticipate how others will respond. This mental juggling creates confusion and slows action. Clarity, however, simplifies the decision-making process. When you trust your own judgment, you no longer need to calculate the opinions of everyone around you. Your mind becomes light, focused, and capable of seeing what truly matters. Clear thinking emerges when external noise is quieted and attention is directed inward. Seeking clarity also fosters authenticity. When you act according to your own understanding, your actions reflect your true character. You become consistent, reliable, and honest in your interactions. People may still criticize or disagree, but your decisions are grounded in truth rather than performance. Authenticity reduces the mental strain of maintaining appearances or trying to satisfy others. It allows the mind to focus on what is real, necessary, and valuable, which is essential for thoughtful decision-making. To practice this, you must learn to observe your motivations before acting. Notice when a decision is influenced by fear of judgment, desire for praise, or a need to belong. Acknowledge these feelings, but do not let them dictate your choice. Instead, return to what is clear, reasonable, and aligned with your principles. This practice strengthens self-trust, sharpens judgment, and cultivates independence. A mind trained in clarity over approval is resilient, disciplined, and free from the constant distraction of others' expectations. Clarity also enhances long-term satisfaction. Choices made to please others often result in regret or discontent because they do not align with your true goals or values. Decisions rooted in clarity lead to confidence, peace, and consistent growth. You act with intention rather than reaction, and you navigate life with a steady mind. Seeking clarity over approval is not arrogance or isolation. It is a disciplined approach to living deliberately, seeing situations accurately, and making decisions that serve your purpose and well-being. Remove unnecessary worries to think clearly. Worry is one of the heaviest burdens the mind carries. It consumes energy, clouds judgment, and distorts perception. Most worries are about things that may never happen, things that are beyond your control, or situations that exaggerate fear and uncertainty. When the mind is preoccupied with these worries, clarity disappears. Thoughts become tangled, decisions become hesitant, and even simple problems feel overwhelming. To think clearly, it is essential to recognize worry for what it is: a distraction, not a solution. Worry often masquerades as preparation. It tells you that thinking excessively about a problem will help you avoid it, control it, or solve it. In reality, worry rarely leads to productive action. It magnifies risk, inflates anxiety, and creates imagined obstacles that may never exist. When you give too much space to worry, the mind is no longer free to assess reality accurately. Decisions made in a state of worry are often reactionary, defensive, and clouded by fear. Removing unnecessary worries creates mental space, allowing judgment to be clear, deliberate, and grounded. Understanding which worries are unnecessary is the first step. Many worries revolve around the future, things that have not happened yet, or events outside your influence. Others arise from overthinking past mistakes, replaying events that cannot be changed. Both types of worry distract from the present moment, which is the only time when action and decision are possible. By recognizing that these concerns do not serve your clarity or purpose, you begin to free your mind from their weight. Clarity comes when attention is directed toward what is real, actionable, and meaningful. Removing worry also requires distinguishing between what you can control and what you cannot. Effort and intention belong to you, but outcomes often do not. The mind loses clarity when it tries to manage what is outside its reach. By focusing only on what is actionable and within your control, unnecessary mental strain diminishes. You direct energy where it matters, and your decisions become sharper, more practical, and more aligned with reality. This focus allows you to respond effectively to challenges rather than being paralyzed by imagined problems. Worry also diminishes emotional balance. A mind weighed down by constant fear, doubt, or anticipation of negative outcomes cannot think clearly. Emotions flare, stress rises, and decision-making becomes reactive rather than intentional. Clearing unnecessary worry stabilizes your inner state, allowing reason and perspective to guide action. You begin to see situations more accurately, assess risks calmly, and choose solutions that are practical rather than desperate. Mental clarity thrives in an environment free from constant emotional turbulence. Another key aspect of removing unnecessary worries is practicing mindfulness. Paying attention to the present moment allows you to notice when the mind drifts toward unhelpful concerns. When you catch yourself worrying about what may never happen, you can gently redirect focus to the task, decision, or reality in front of you. Mindfulness trains the mind to stay grounded, reducing the influence of imagined threats and distractions. This habit strengthens clarity and improves the quality of every decision you make. Letting go of worry also builds confidence and resilience. When you stop giving power to imagined problems, you trust your ability to handle real challenges as they arise. You face uncertainty with calmness rather than fear. You make decisions based on reason and observation rather than hypothetical fears. This mental strength develops over time, reinforcing clarity as a natural state of mind. Decisions made without the distortion of unnecessary worry are stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your true goals and values. Finally, removing unnecessary worries allows you to live with greater freedom. The mind no longer carries the weight of imagined problems, and energy is available for meaningful action. You approach life with steadiness and purpose, thinking clearly in the face of uncertainty and responding thoughtfully to challenges. By letting go of unnecessary worry, you create the conditions for calm judgment, deliberate action, and decisions that reflect clarity, wisdom, and inner strength. Practice silence to understand your mind. In the constant noise of daily life, the mind rarely has a chance to rest. Thoughts, conversations, notifications, and endless distractions fill every moment, leaving little space for reflection. Without silence, clarity cannot emerge. A mind that is constantly active, reacting to external stimuli, cannot see itself clearly. It cannot separate useful thoughts from unnecessary ones, nor can it understand its own patterns and tendencies. Silence creates the environment necessary for deep observation and self-awareness, which are essential for better decision-making. Silence is not simply the absence of sound, it is the absence of unnecessary mental activity. It is a deliberate state in which the mind steps back from external demands and internal chatter. In silence, the mind begins to notice its own habits, impulses, and emotions. You become aware of the thoughts that rise automatically and the feelings that push you toward reaction. This awareness is the first step toward mastery, because you cannot change what you do not recognize. The quieter your inner space becomes, the more clearly you can see the roots of your thoughts and actions. Practicing silence also strengthens patience and self-control. When the mind is always reacting, decisions are often rushed, impulsive, or guided by emotion rather than reason. Silence introduces a pause, a moment to observe before acting. In this pause, you can ask yourself whether your reaction serves your purpose, aligns with your values, or reflects careful thought. Over time, this habit trains the mind to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. Decisions made from this calm, deliberate state are far more reliable and effective. Silence allows you to reflect on what truly matters. The constant business of life encourages distraction and attention to trivial matters. When you step into silence, you create space to focus on priorities. You can consider the consequences of your actions, the alignment of your choices with your goals, and the clarity of your reasoning. The mind begins to filter out unnecessary noise, leaving only what is essential for thoughtful decision-making. This process sharpens judgment and strengthens the ability to make choices with confidence. In addition, silence nurtures self-understanding. Many of the conflicts and confusions in life arise because people fail to understand their own thoughts and motivations. Without reflection, the mind follows habit, emotion, or the influence of others. Silence allows you to explore the nature of your own thinking, to examine patterns, fears, and desires that drive behavior. This self-awareness is crucial for clarity, because understanding yourself reduces internal conflict and increases the ability to act with purpose. You begin to notice when impulses, worries, or external pressures are distorting your judgment, and you can correct your course before acting. Silence also strengthens focus. In a noisy environment, attention is scattered, and decisions are clouded by distraction. Practicing silence trains the mind to concentrate, to observe a single thought or problem without interruption. This focused attention allows deeper insight, better problem solving, and more accurate assessment of situations. When the mind is still, ideas and solutions arise more clearly, and the path forward becomes more apparent. Clarity grows naturally from this concentrated state, enabling decisions that are thoughtful and deliberate. Furthermore, silence builds resilience. A mind accustomed to quiet is less easily shaken by external chaos or emotional turbulence. Challenges, pressure, and unexpected events are less likely to provoke panic or confusion because the mind has learned to remain steady. The calm developed through silence becomes a foundation for making decisions even in difficult circumstances. You are less likely to be influenced by the noise of other people, the rush of emotion, or the distractions of modern life, and more likely to act with purpose and understanding. Regular practice of silence can take many forms: meditation, quiet walks, reflective journaling, or simply sitting undisturbed for a few moments each day. The key is consistency and attention. By creating regular intervals of mental quiet, you strengthen your ability to observe, understand, and control your mind. The more you cultivate this habit, the clearer your thoughts become, and the more capable you are of making wise, intentional decisions. A silent mind sees clearly, judges accurately, and acts decisively,